Hey everyone, welcome to the ufohub live stream. Well, we worked it out. Ray and we finally connected. He had a presentation he wanted to share, and I usually haven't done that on my system before, so we worked it out. Actually, it was mainly me working out what else I have to do or what else I can do, because I wanted you guys to see what he has to present, because it's a lot of facts, a lot of data, and I wanted him to have the ability to present that to you. So I'm glad we're going to be going over that later on. For now, I wanted to cover a few things with you guys. So open lines on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. For those of you, I still get sometimes some messages regarding Telegram. Please download Telegram either on your computer or phone, and you should be able to search for the UFO Hub group. And then that way, when the voice chat is started, you can basically just join the voice chat and then just pretty much be in queue and be ready to start telling me your story whenever it is your turn. So that's regarding that part. What I wanted to go over next is about the videos. So I've been trying real hard to at least get a webcast in along with the Wednesday and Friday live shows, but sometimes different schedules don't necessarily work out between mine and the guests, and sometimes I have to do an interview on Thursday, sometimes it's on Tuesday, so I can't always make sure that it comes out on Wednesdays. So I have to kind of change the format around. I'm going to have to keep it open from Monday to Friday. So anytime between Monday and Friday, a webcast will drop with a guest that I have. It's a pre-recorded interview and not live. And so if that ever happens, I'm usually just going to upload it as soon as I have it rendered and worked out with the guest if they're okay with the final outcome. But then when it comes to some of the live shows, because of the different schedules, I'm also going to have to, I'll at least give you a day's notice where I already create the live stream and put it up there, and it'll tell you what the countdown is and when it will be. Because some of the guests that I really would like to have on, they really cannot do Fridays. And sometimes, I have some that is great for Monday, others Thursday. So they're not 100% set yet, but you will see as soon as I have them, I'll put them out there. So basically look into the community tab, and come Monday, if I cannot put an interview out or something changes with some of the live shows, I will always let you know on Mondays in the community tab. And so that way you know what you're looking forward to for the week. And okay, I think I pretty much covered all of that. So I'm hoping that you guys can work out with the Telegram and doing the voice chat, because I like that a lot better instead of a phone call, because I don't have a way to hook up a phone to basically do a call in and have you live on the air that way. As you've noticed before, with Telegram, it works out a lot better. So with that being said, let me go over here. And all right, still streaming. Everything's looking good. So without any further ado, here's Ray Hernandez. Ray, thanks for being on. How are you?
Thank you very much, Adnan. I'm very well.
Okay. Well, I'm really, really happy we're able to work this out. I appreciate your patience. And again, thank you for being on.
You're very welcome.
So I figured what I always do, if you could please give me a little bit of background information about you specifically and what is it that got you in this field, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Basically, I've been working for many years now as a tax attorney with the U.S. Department of Treasury. Previous to that, I was an academic professor. Before I had attended law school, I was a PhD student at the University of California at Berkeley. And before that, I attended Cornell University for a master's. So I've been in school for many, many years. I have numerous degrees. And I had zero interest in UFOs and anything that was paranormal related and consciousness related. And then in March of 2012, my wife and I had an experience with an energy being that appeared in our living room, and that resulted because my wife was praying all night for an angelic intervention. She was a hardcore Catholic because our dog, a 15-year-old Jack Russell Terrier, became totally paralyzed. And so then the very next morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, this energy being appeared, um, made my wife and the dog disappear right in front of me, put me to sleep. And then when I woke up an hour later, the dog was completely healed and running around the living room. And then my wife, after that, would go outside and to pray to her angels that did the healing, and these huge UFOs would appear. And that happened over a 4-month period. And then in in August of 2012, so 6 months after my initial experience, I called down the UFO that my wife had been calling down for 4 months, and I was just killing time. I didn't even know how to do it. Later on, I found out it's called CE5, or a human initiated contact experiences, and this huge UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, appeared. That was witnessed by my then 10-year-old daughter and 3 adult friends. And it was basically less than 30 feet on top of us to the side, because it was on top of our next door neighbor's house. Literally, I could have thrown a rock and hit it. And we saw that object there for over an hour. And there was telepathic communications that took place. It was a mind-blowing experience. And then after that particular date of August 2012, then I began pretty much nonstop paranormal experiences for the next 4 months. And so, being an academic that I was for many years, I began to do an academic literature review of what had happened to us. And I found out that, at least regarding the UFO-related contact experiences, there was very little academic research. There certainly was no statistical research study. And so, with the help of the late Apollo 14 astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Harvard astrophysicist, Dr. Rudy Shield, and Mary Rodwell, someone who had been researching the experiencer contact phenomenon for over 30 years, we formed this organization called the Dr. Edgar Mitchell FREE Foundation. And then we brought in an additional 10 PhD academics and many other researchers in the field, people like Kathleen Martin, Barbara Lamb, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, etc., to work with our PhD academics. And then we undertook the world's first and only comprehensive academic research study on UFO contact experiencers. And I'm going to give a presentation about that data, the data findings. But I am now currently the director of the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, or CCRI, and which is a 501c3 academic research institute. And I want everyone right now to copy my email, because I will be giving out free chapters for these 2 books that our organizations have written. For the free research study, just chapter 1 alone is 120 pages. And it's 120 pages of data, pure research data. And I'm going to be sending you numerous other chapters. Chapter 2, which is a review of our qualitative data from our research study, that's close to 200 pages in length. So you'll be getting almost 325 pages of pure data analysis from our research study, and several other chapters. So the email is info@experiencer.org, info@experiencer, experiencer.org. Ask for me to send you these chapters for 2 books, and I will certainly send you that information. So that's what I'm going to be discussing today, which is pure academic research of the UFO contact phenomenon, and also what we're calling the contact modalities. And I'll be defining that in a couple of minutes. And we do have 2 websites, but they're currently under development. And they'll be open up to the public on September 1st when we release our second book.
Okay, well, Ray, for everyone watching, the link is actually in the description. I mean, the email is in the description below, and so just copy it, email Ray, and he'll look you up as he mentioned. So, what I figured, I'll let Ray get started on his presentation and just let him run with it. So, Ray, please go ahead and begin whenever you are ready.
Thank you very much. First of all, for the audience members, I blink a lot, and that's because I have problems with my eyes. So I hope it's not a major distraction to you. This first slide is our organization. It's titled Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, or CCRI. It's a 501c3 academic research institute. And I said before, our email is info@experiencer.org, and our two websites are currently under development. They will be open on September 1st. CCRI is a 501c not-for-profit academic research institute focused on researching what is consciousness, what is the nature of our reality, by undertaking cross-comparative research on individuals that are having various types of contact experiences with non-human intelligence via what we are calling the contact modalities. And to the right, you will see our next book. I'll talk a little bit more about that book in a couple of minutes. CCRI is comprised of 15 PhD academics and 5 medical doctors. We also have 10 lay researchers. These are non-academics. So the total amount is 30 individuals. Most of these individuals have been working and researching the phenomenon of consciousness and the paranormal for more than 30 years. Our organization is about to embark a 5-year academic research study on the major experiencers of the contact modalities via qualitative and quantitative surveys and also structured interviews. CCRI hypothesizes that we are interacting with non-human intelligence via various paranormal modalities, and that all of these contact modalities might be derived from one source. In other words, it might be one phenomenon. We hypothesize that consciousness is what unifies the contact modalities, and that consciousness is primary and not our material reality. In other words, the reality that we see, that we're accustomed to, is a facade. It's an illusion. That there's another external reality behind it, which is our true reality. Now, this is a post-materialist view of our reality and consciousness. The vast majority of academic researchers who also hypothesize that we are living within what is now commonly called a virtual reality. So these are the academic researchers in our organization, and that this might explain why all of the contact modalities are interrelated. This view of our reality is considered a post-materialist view of reality. Now, mind you, we have a PhD physicist from Harvard University, we have a PhD physicist from Princeton University, and another individual who's not public, but he's associated with Caltech, again, a physicist. The vast majority of the researchers of the contact modalities, they have a materialist perspective. Our organization and our researchers do not. For example, the vast majority of people that are studying UFOs, they have a nuts and bolts perspective of what UFOs are. Nuts and bolts is that they basically focus on pictures and videos, Roswell, UFO crashes, things of that sort. Okay, that is not our focus, because that particular perspective has contributed very little over the last 80 years to a better understanding of what is the UFO contact phenomenon. And I'll describe that in a couple of minutes. Okay, materialism. Materialism is the idea that matter is the only reality, and the belief system that the mind is nothing but the physical activity of the brain, and that our thoughts cannot have any effect upon our brains and bodies, our actions, and the physical world. Okay. However, research in quantum physics, the psi phenomenon, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, mediumship, hallucinogenic contact experiences, and now our free UAP experiencer research study supports the hypothesis that the mind can exist separate from the brain, and that consciousness is the key to be able to understand this relationship. And I'll be articulating this point of view over the next few minutes. CCRI wants to eventually compare UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomenon. The vast majority of the world calls them UFOs, but our organization calls them UAPs. The UAP contact experiencer research data from its free experiencer research study with individuals that have had other types of paranormal contact experiences with non-human intelligence through what we're calling the contact modalities. Now, what are the contact modalities? The contact modalities are UFO, UAP contact, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, spirit and ghost communications, remote viewing, hallucinogenic contact. For example, those are people that take DMT or ayahuasca or magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and they have contact with non-human intelligence. Mediumship, channeling, and other types of human communication with non-human intelligence and its related paranormal experiences. Currently, the vast majority of researchers in this field, they do not understand that it's all interrelated. For example, the UAP, the UFO folks, they'll say, what does UFO have to do with near-death experiences? You go to a near-death experience conference, and then they'll tell you, what in the world does NDEs have to do with UFOs? Same thing with out-of-body experiences, the ghost hunters, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, our organization, which I said is comprised of numerous PhD academics, believe that it's all interrelated and it's one phenomenon. This is just a graphic depiction of the contact modalities, and consciousness is the glue that's holding it all together. George Knapp. George Knapp, I interviewed him about a year and a half ago. And here I'm holding our book on the UFO contact phenomenon. And George Knapp agrees with our organization 110%. However, he doesn't publicly discuss his personal viewpoints with his audience too frequently. But let me see if I can get an audio replay to work. If not, I'll just have to show the graphic display. Okay, I guess it's not working. Sorry about that. What he basically said is the lesson is that all of these paranormal phenomena, the contact modalities, they're all interrelated. He said flying saucers might not be crafts from other worlds. These visitors might not be from another planet. He says flying saucers, which is a materialist ufology perspective that I previously discussed, flying saucers is not the answer to these bigger questions. He said you need to have a much more broader understanding of the nature of our reality. That reality is far more complex than we can imagine. He said it makes UFOs, Roswell, and crashes look very small. Dr. John Alexander. John Alexander has been lecturing on UFOs for close to 30 years. He also did his PhD dissertation on near-death experiences. He also has been the president of the International Association of Remote Viewers, on and off, again, over the last 30 years. So this man is an expert on UFOs, expert on near-death experiences, expert on remote viewing, and also out-of-body experiences, because he worked with Robert Monroe many, many years ago when Dr. Monroe was alive on out-of-body research. So John is the real McCoy. And again, I apologize for the audio not popping up, because the audio should have been playing with this video. But let me go straight to the screen of what Dr. Alexander said. John, as I said before, was the second president of the International Association of Near-Death Studies. His PhD dissertation was on the afterlife and NDEs. And he said, to understand the UFO phenomenon, we need to look at it via a wider context of the contact modalities. He said, and not as a viewpoint that all of these contact modalities are separate and distinct phenomena. He said they're not separate. He says one of the problems is that we tend to stovepipe each phenomenon as a single discipline instead of viewing it via an interdisciplinary approach. He said somehow all of these phenomenon are connected. Okay, what we want to be able to do, as I said earlier, is how can we compare the UFO contact experiences to experiencers of NDEs, OBEs, remote viewers, people who have seen ghosts and spirits, to all experiencers of the contact modalities. Okay, but how can we do this? How could we have done this when there was no comprehensive statistical data on UFO contact experiencers? And if anyone knows of any UFO comprehensive statistical data, let me know, because it doesn't exist besides outside of our research study. Okay, thus, if we're able to compare, for example, NDEs to the UFO contact experiences, we needed data on the UFO contactees, data which never existed. So we needed data in a formal, comprehensive, multinational, and multi-language academic research study. And that's what we did over a 5-year period. Okay, so the free experiencer research study. Okay, as you can see to the right is our first book. Our first book is titled Beyond UFOs: The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence. We had 3 co-editors for that book. Dr. Rudy Shields was an emeritus professor of astrophysics at Harvard University. I mean, you can't get more credible than that. The other person was Dr. John Klimo, and he was a professor of psychology for over 45 years. And he taught research methodology for those 45 years at numerous universities, starting with Brown University, an Ivy League school. And so, as I said before, these are just 2 of the many academics. Some of the other academics that worked very closely with us was Dr. Bob Davis, and he also was a retired professor of neuroscience from the State University of New York. And John Alexander, as I mentioned before, worked with us. We also had Dean Radin, very well known in the field of consciousness, and the lead scientist at the Institute for Noetic Sciences. The research study lasted 5 years. Okay, and one person that I failed to mention was Edgar Mitchell. Obviously, he got a PhD in aeronautical engineering from MIT. So, I mean, these are heavyweights that are working on this. And this book that you see there to your right is 820 pages. So, as I said before, if you send me your email to info@experiencer.org, I will send you various chapters from our 820-page book. The following data presentation is based solely from our academic research study. Now, in order to qualify to take our survey, you needed 2 things. One is you needed to have seen a UFO, and number 2, you needed to have had some type of contact experience with a non-human intelligence. The 4 co-founders of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell FREE Foundation was Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who passed away in 2016. We started our research study in 2013, and we published our book in 2018. So he passed away after 3 years, and he never got to see the publication of our book. And so, as I said before, he was the 6th man to walk on the moon, and he was a member of Apollo 14. Edgar also, as I said before, got a PhD in aeronautical engineering from MIT. The other co-founder is Dr. Rudy Shield, and Rudy Shield is an emeritus professor of astrophysics from Harvard University at the Center for the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. He's published more than 300 peer-reviewed academic research papers on astrophysics, and he called out Stephen Hawking, said he was completely wrong on his theories of black holes. This was 5 years before Stephen Hawking publicly admitted that he was wrong on black holes. So we're talking with two geniuses here as members of the co-founders. The other co-founder is Mary Rodwell, and she's been researching and lecturing on UFO contactees and UFO abductees for over 30 years. And there's a picture of Mary there. And I'm the fourth co-founder, and that was me lecturing several years ago at the Ozark Mountain UFO conference, and that's where Adnan interviewed me as well. Now, the other member of our research team, Dr. John Klimo, he was the co-chair of the research study. And as I said before, John taught research methodology at various universities. He was a professor of psychology for over 45 years. And Dr. Bob Davis, he wrote three books, actually. One was a UFO book. Another one was a book on the afterlife. And then his last book, published last year, is a book about consciousness. And so Dr. Bob Davis is an emeritus professor of cognitive neuroscience at the State University of New York. Now, our research methodology. We developed 3 surveys. Surveys 1 and 2 were quantitative in nature. Yes or no, fill in the blanks, the best choice between these 5 responses, that sort of thing. So we asked 600 quantitative questions. It took forever for these people to do these surveys, very lengthy. And then survey 3 was 70 open-ended questions, where we asked people open-ended questions and they got to write out the details for these 70 questions. In total, for these 70 open-ended questions, we received over 10,000 pages, okay, of writings of their personal experiences. So we have enough for numerous novels, a lot of work. And so for 3 years, we advertised our surveys on YouTube, on weekly postings to over 500 Facebook sites, monthly mailings to over 8,000 emails, internet postings, and we appeared in over 200 radio interviews. And some of the people are very well known within ufology. For example, Kathy Martin. She was not one of the co-founders, but she was working with us in our research committee from day one. And Kathy, almost every weekend, she appears on the radio show. So Kathy is a very, very important person that was part of our research committee. Also, several people that have passed away, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who also had her own radio show on the Paranormal, and she was on numerous radio interviews. So we took advantage of all these individuals and to publicize our research study. We only allowed memory from conscious memory recollections, and not memory from hypnotic regressions, from lucid dreams, or channeling. The reason for that is extremely important because hypnotic regressions, there are numerous problems associated with that. Also with lucid dreams, what's the difference between what is a lucid dream and what is not a lucid dream? Same thing with channeling. How do you know someone's channeling a real entity versus someone that's thinking that he's channeling someone? So we just only allowed conscious, explicit memories. Also, we develop our surveys in multiple languages, in English, Spanish, French, German, Slovak, and very soon in the Chinese language. So what I'm going to tell you now are the data research findings from the English language survey. Altogether, for the English language survey, and we closed the survey June the 1st, 2018. For phase 1, we had 4,145 individuals that responded from over 125 countries. That's why I said before that there's no quantitative data anywhere near what we're doing. The closest thing was Dr. Kenneth Ring. He compared 85 people that had UFO contact experiences, mainly abductees, with 85 people that had near-death experiences. So that's just 85 people. And here we have 4,145 people, which is a huge number. For phase 2, we had 2,292 people that responded. And for phase 3, we had 1,456 people that responded to phase 3. Now, as I said before, phase 3 is our open-ended survey, and we received more than 10,000 pages of written responses to these open-ended questions. Now, there are 4 major findings. There are literally hundreds of findings for this research study. And these findings totally contradict what is circulating in ufology. I highly recommend people, if you're there on the internet all the time or following UFO conferences, the vast majority of these people, you think they're experts? No, they're not experts because they're not researchers. Okay, these people have never collected data anywhere near the level that we've gotten. So why does it contradict what's circulating in ufology? Very simple, because no one has ever done the data collection before. No one has ever done what we did. Okay, and certainly the people that have these small data sets, these are not PhD academics. They not do this over a 5-year period. They did not do it with responses from thousands of people over 125 countries. So let's go over these 4 important findings. Findings number 1. Okay, these experiences were overwhelming positive. Okay, overwhelmingly, they were positive experiences. Number 2, these experiences resulted in a positive transformation and a positive worldview of the individual. So they were totally transformed. Okay, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. Now, number 3, these experiences were primarily paranormal experiences. They were not necessarily physical experiences. Now, while you might have seen a UFO, while you might have seen a physical being appear right in front of you, okay, the overwhelming majority of these individuals' experiences were paranormal. And that's, my case is a classic example. But as you will soon see, okay, that's the vast majority of people that have had UFO-related contact experiences. Number 4, okay, what we concluded based upon this research data is what's taking place with contact experiences is a manipulation of space-time, okay, which leads to the hypothesis that these experiences might be interdimensional in nature. And that is one of the major reasons how they are correlated and associated with the other contact modalities, because with near-death experiences, with out-of-body experiences, with ghosts and spirits, with hallucinogenic journeys, etc., remote viewing, all of these experiences involve a manipulation of space-time. Okay, and if we're dealing with something that involves a manipulation of space-time, we're still dealing with something that's interdimensional in nature, and that's consciousness-based. Okay, so let me go into some more specifics. We asked this question whether your experience was positive, negative, or neutral. We asked it via 40 different questions, okay? Because depending on how you ask a question, you will get a different response, okay? So we wanted to cover all of our tracks, and we asked it in numerous ways. So the following are just a few of these examples. Okay, how would you describe your experiences? Okay, was it positive, negative, or neutral? Now, a lot of the people that didn't like the data, the results of our research study, they said, oh, you're asking tons of leading questions. You're leading the person to pick a choice. Okay, well, take a look at this question. How would you describe your experiences? Was it positive, negative, or neutral? Is that a biased question? Is that a leading question? Compare it with what all the BS that's circulating in ufology, which is overwhelmingly based upon hypnotic regressions. Okay, hypnotic regressions, you go to David Jacobs and he's asking you one leading question after another. Also, David Jacobs has publicly stated he has never met anyone that's ever had a positive experience, never. But yet Richard Dolan holds David Jacobs out as the world's leading researcher in this arena. Okay, that's Richard Dolan. He gets invited to every UFO conference known to mankind. He said David Jacobs is the best. And yet David Jacobs says they're all evil. They're all bad. I've never met not one person that's ever had a positive experience. And by the way, I know why they're here on Earth, these ETs. They're here to create hybrids and to take over our planet. Okay? So that's what's circulating in ufology. Ufology, I've always stated, is a cesspool of misinformation and disinformation. Okay? Now let's look at our data. Our data is real information from 4,000, almost 400 individuals that have taken our surveys from over 125 countries. Surveys that were supervised and developed by PhD academics. Okay? Not someone that at most worked with 200 people in his own living room, feeding them leading questions. Okay? And then say the ETs, hybrids are taking over the world. No, that's bullshit. Okay? Let's look at this question now. When people were asked that question, how would you describe your experiences? Were they positive, negative, or neutral? The response was 66% said it was positive, 5% said it was negative, and 29% said it was neutral. Now, we even asked for the different types of beings. We had 12 categories of physical beings for people to categorize. What we determined was that the number one type of being that was seen by people was not the short grays. But yet, if you go to the internet, if you go to these UFO conferences, you know, all you think about is just the short grays or the evil reptilians. Okay? No, that's BS. The number one type of being seen by UFO contact experiencers were categorized as energy beings of the people. Okay, and the total number of people that saw an energy being from our survey was 1,305. Now, out of those, and towards the right, we had the percent that said it was positive, the percent that said it was negative, and that's in the color red, and the percent that said it was neutral. As you can see, for the energy being, 48% said it was positive, 7% said it was negative, and 45% said it was neutral. Okay, now, in terms of the human looking being, that was the number two type of being. Okay, that was 52% of the people. And positive was 61%. Why? Because it looked like us, it looked like a human, you know. 5% it was negative, 24% said it was neutral. Now, the evil short grays, okay, that David Jacobs says that they're taking over the world, that they're creating hybrids, okay? Well, what did real experiencers say? Okay. Again, this is 1,173. This is, we did an early cutoff for this data, but we eventually had more than about 1,400 people in the short gray category. And for the energy beings, it was over 1,600 people. But anyway, let's use this number that I plucked out. Out of those, 29% said it was positive. Only 11% said it was negative. And 59% said it was neutral. Okay, and that's not what's circulating in ufology. Now, the other categories were spirit or the ghost forms. That was the number 4 type of being. The tall grays, and those can be described as the gray looking beings, but they were 5 to 9 feet tall, versus the short grays that were 3 to 4 feet tall. The reptilians, okay, the evil, dreaded reptilians, okay, the ones that are raping your wife, they're eating your daughter, and Barack Obama is a reptilian, okay? All of that is BS, okay? 25%, 644 people said that they saw reptilians, okay? We're not talking 1, 2, or 3, or 4 people. There's 644 people, okay? Out of those, only 23% said it was negative. That's it, 23%, okay? But when we looked in phase 3, when people wrote out the details, these 644 people, what they wrote out the details of their experiences, what did we find out? It wasn't that the reptilian raped their wife or ate their children, and I saw Barack Obama as a reptilian, all that bullshit that's circulating on the internet. No. What it was that people were scared of what the reptilian looked like. Okay? Most of these experiences occurred up close, within a few feet. All of a sudden, the reptilian is right in front of you, and he's just staring at you. That's the vast majority of these cases, staring and looking at you. Okay? Imagine, these are entities that are like 7 to 8 feet, 9 feet tall. They have a crocodile body with a long tail. They have a slit like a cat eyes, okay? And they're massive. They're like 400 or 500 pounds, and they're right in front of you, looking at you, okay? The average human being would be defecating in their pants if this occurred to them, okay? So That's why the 23% said that it was negative, because they were scared of what it looked like. Okay. Now, many of these people over time, they thought, well, what did it do? Did it harm me? No, it didn't harm me. So that's why you get 60% said it was a neutral experience. Okay. But that wasn't their initial experience. The initial experience was dread and fear. But yet over time, when they reflected upon their experience, then the negativity went down tremendously. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that. Okay. Now, again, this is another leading question. Oh, Ray, your questions, they were all leading questions. Okay. You were gearing people to a fixed answer. Okay. That's the type of bullshit response we got when people didn't like the data findings. Okay. So we asked this question: if you could stop your ET contact experiences, would you? Very simple and straightforward question. Well, 84% said, no, don't stop it. Keep it coming, baby. Keep it coming. Okay. Again, that's hardcore data. Those are facts. That's not the BS that's circulating in ufology. Another question. Oh, this is another leading question, another biased question. Okay. So you tell me, do you believe that the ETs are bad, malevolent, or evil? Okay. 91% no, I don't believe that. Okay. Let's go into this next category. Okay. That the contact experience resulted in a positive transformation of the experiencer. In other words, these people were totally transformed to become better human beings. Okay. Now let's go over those details. Again, you won't hear that in ufology. Okay. You won't hear that. Okay. But if you talk to experiencers one on one, the vast majority will tell you that. Unlike David Jacobs, if someone approached Bud Hopkins or David Jacobs with a positive experience, they said, no, I'm too busy. I won't be able to hypnotically regress you. I'm not interested. Okay. That's widely known. Okay. With so many people that approach David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins, they will not work with you if you had a positive experience. And if people want names, I'll give them names of people that approached them, and that because they had a positive experience, they said no. Now, we got the questions from this research study. This research study was done by Dr. Kenneth Ring. He was a tenured professor of psychology at the University of Connecticut. He was a tenured professor for over 35 years. And in 1992, he published a book titled The Omega Project: Near-Death Experiences, UFO Encounters, and the Mind at Large. And this is, as I said before, one of the few statistical research studies that incorporated UFO abductees. And in this statistical research study, he had 85 UFO abductees, and he compared them, he gave them both the same questions to 85 NDE experiencers. So he asked over 400 questions to both groups. And he asked over 70 questions on how did both groups change from these experiences. How were they before and how were they after their experiences? And what he found out was that for both groups, for both the abductees and the NDE experiencers, that between the questions that were asked of these 70 questions, it was anywhere from between 75 to 85% stated that these were positive changes. Now, what we did is we borrowed about 60 of these questions and we put them in our questionnaire, because we wanted to see what were thousands of people saying instead of 85 UFO abductees, okay, to see if it matches up with what Kenneth Ring came up with. So let's take a look at some of that data. Okay. Again, another leading question. Oh, Ray, you got the answers you got because you were so biased. This survey was so biased. Okay. These people had never even read the research questions or knew them. So we asked this question. Okay. How did ET contact change your life? Was it highly positive effect on changing your life? Slightly positive effect on changing your life? Neutral effect on changing your life? Slightly negative effect on changing your life? Or highly negative effect on changing your life? Well, guess what? 73% said it was a positive effect on changing my life for the positive. Neutral was 17%. Slightly negative was 6%. Okay, highly negative which is what's circulating in ufology, and David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins, okay, only 4%. All right, 4%. But yet that's the bullshit that's circulating within ufology with some of these researchers. Why? Because they never did the data. They never did the data. All they do is going word of mouth of what's circulating, okay? They never did any statistical analysis where they asked the same question to thousands of people, UFO experiencers, both abductees and contactees. Now, let me get into that in a couple of minutes, okay? Overall, depending on the questions that we asked, between 73 to 85% of the UFO-related contact experiences underwent a profound psychological profile change for the positive. Now, the following is just a few examples of the various questions we asked. Okay. In here, we started a question that says, since I first became interested or had my UFO contact experience, okay? And to the left, you'll see the question. And let me just repeat some of these questions. My desire to help others, my compassion for others, my appreciation of the ordinary things of life, my sensitivity to the suffering of others, my concern with spiritual matters, my desire to achieve a higher consciousness. All of this increased, okay, substantially, okay? As you can see, the two columns, one is strongly increased, the other one is increased somewhat. Almost all of these are above 75%. Now, strongly decreased, as you could see, it's like less than 1%. There was one that was almost 3%, all right? But almost all of these, almost 75%, were increased, okay? All right? For the positive, having more compassion for people, okay? Compassion for the sufferings of others, spirituality, okay? Let me go for some other questions. My appreciation of nature. All of a sudden, they're not polluting things. They're not throwing garbage out in the street, you know? They'll tell someone, look, pick up that cigarette butt, you know? Their spiritual feelings, okay? All of a sudden, they become highly spiritual and less religious, and you'll see that in a couple of minutes, okay? Their concern for the welfare of planet Earth. Again, what is that? 85% of the people, okay? Strongly increased their concern for the welfare of planet Earth. Their understanding of what life is all about. Before, like myself, I ran through life thinking you live and you die and that's it, okay? All of a sudden, you know, I have a better understanding of what life is all about. What is my mission here? What am I doing here? What I'm supposed to do? Okay, my purpose in life, my concern with ecological matters. Okay, now let's look at the opposite. Okay, what decreased? Okay, again, we asked that same question. Since I first became interested, or since I first had my UFO contact experience, okay, my concern with material things decreased. 67% decreased. Okay, all of a sudden they didn't care about having a new Mercedes Benz every year. Okay, they'll drive the same old Honda Accord, you know, that they've had for the last 15 years. That's good and dandy. I don't need money. I don't need material things. Okay, my interest in organized religion, all of a sudden, was that 63% decreased. Okay, neutral was didn't change, was 27%. Okay, so people's interest in organized religion went down. Okay, my wife was a case example. Every Sunday we had to go to mass. Every Thursday we had a group go to a group prayer meeting. You know, all of a sudden my wife now once every 6 months she goes to mass. Okay, but yet that's most of the people that have had these UFO contact experiences. My competitive tendencies, again, decreased. All of a sudden, they don't care to squash someone else, okay? No, they're not as competitive. They don't want to destroy someone else to get ahead. Very important, fear of death, okay? As you can see, 73% of the people strongly decreased their fear of death, okay? Change that was neutral, about 24%, okay? For the people that then had a fear of death afterwards, okay, that increased or increased somewhat, it was what, 4%. That's it. And those are usually the people that are fear-based, okay? The 4% that view it as strictly negative. So again, my fear of death strongly decreased for the vast majority of these people. My desire to become a well-known person, to become famous, again, strongly decreased. So that's why we argue that these experiences totally change the psychological profile, the worldview of these experiences for the positive. Wouldn't it be great not to fear death? Wouldn't it be great, okay, for you not to be concerned with material things? Okay. Wouldn't it be great for you to become much, much more spiritual? Okay. For you to become much more ecological. Okay. For you to have compassion for others, to become more loving for humanity and your friends. Okay. So this is what ufology doesn't talk about. Okay. But yet, our research study, our free research study from thousands of people confirms this. Now, the third major finding that UFO contact experiencers have primarily had paranormal experiences and not primarily physical contact experiences with non human intelligence before or after their sighting of a UFO. Okay, now let's discuss this. As I said before, people are seeing a UFO. Okay, they've had to have some type of contact experience with a non human intelligence. But the overwhelming majority of these people's experiences were paranormal in nature. All of a sudden, you begin to see ghosts and spirits. All of a sudden, you begin to have out of body experiences. And I'll give you some of those examples. Okay? Question. Have you ever had an out of body experience? Again, oh, Ray, your research study asked all of these leading questions. Okay? Is that a leading question? Have you ever had an out of body experience? Yes or no? Of course not. Okay. So these people that are attacking this is because they don't like the results. They don't like what really is happening to experience. They rather listen to David Jacobs talk about, ET, taking over the planet, and Richard Dolan saying that David Jacobs is the best researcher that's out there. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, that's what ufology gets. Okay, from these people that are totally clueless as to what's going on. Okay. So have you ever had an out of body experience? Well, 80% of the people said yes. Huge numbers. Have you ever had a near death experience? 37% said yes. Okay. Have you ever had a medical healing either on yourself or a member of your family by non human intelligence? IEET. 50% said yes. Huge numbers, 50%. Like, remember I told you about my dog that was healed by this energy being? Well, guess what? I'm not the only game in town here. 50% of the people had a medical healing. As a matter of fact, I will send to everyone that requests chapter 6 from our book, which is a book that has a chapter on medical healings. It has 12 case studies and our entire research data on medical healings. That's 50% of the people. Okay. Did you ever did your experience involve some type of telepathic communication or a thought transference? Okay. Given to you by ET? Well, 78%, almost 8 out of 10 people have had telepathic communication or what is commonly called a download, a thought transference. Okay. From ET. Huge numbers, 78%. Okay. Have you had contact with ET or non human intelligence in a matrix like reality, which means in a multi dimensional type of reality? And that's 50% of the people. Again, huge numbers. If any of you saw the movie Contact with, goodness, that actress that won 2 Academy Awards, I forgot her
Jodie
name,
Foster.
but look, yes, Jodie Foster, very, very famous actress, 2 Academy Awards. This movie Contact, she was brought to a multi-dimensional matrix reality. Okay. Well, guess what? Jodie Foster's not the only game in town. 50% of the people were brought to this multi-dimensional matrix reality. I had that experience myself. Okay. Well, I was driving my car in the middle of a traffic jam. Okay. All of a sudden, boom, I'm not in the car anymore. I'm in some other reality. And I was taken outside of space-time because time did not elapse when I was brought back. I was brought right back to the car. No time had elapsed. But yet I was in that other reality like 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. But yet this is extremely common. People have heard of missing time. Okay. This is sort of like a parallel to this missing time. Past life memories. Okay. Have you ever had a past life memory? For example, a memory of your consciousness in a previous life? 66%. So as you can get a feel for it, these people were not just seeing UFOs, okay? They were having a whole array of paranormal experiences, and our data proves it. Have you ever seen what can be described as a ghost or a spirit? 76%, almost 8 out of 10 people, you know, have seen a ghost or a spirit. Again, this is not just about UFOs, people. This is way, way more complicated. Way, way more complicated than just ufology, nuts and bolts ufology. All those people that you pay hundreds of dollars to go lecture at a UFO conference, okay? The vast majority of these people are totally clueless, okay, of what this is all about, okay? Why? Because they're saying, no, the data you came up with, that's totally impossible, you know? Why? Because no one has ever done it before. We did it, okay? Do you have memories of visiting or receiving a glimpse of heaven, or what is commonly called the spirit world? We're 46%, almost one out of every two people, were actually shown heaven, okay, or the spirit world after death. Huge numbers. Orbs. Again, what the hell does UFOs have to do with orbs? They have nothing to do with orbs. Okay, well, guess what? 67% of the people have seen small colored orbs at close range. Now we're talking about a foot in diameter. We're not talking orbs in the sky, like when people do CE5. We're talking about close. We're not talking about photos either, because in the question we asked them, we're not talking about you seeing them in photos. Okay, we're seeing in person, orbs. Have objects mysteriously appeared right in front of you or other members of your family? The term in parapsychology is called apports. Okay, very, very common, except people don't talk about it because they think that you might think they're crazy. Okay, I've had that. So many of the people that I've spoken with, objects appear and all of a sudden they'll disappear. 25%, one out of every four people. Take that, you ufologists, okay? This is what really is happening to experiencers, not the bullshit that you guys are trying to push, okay? Have material objects ever fallen or suddenly moved around you or other members of your family without any reasonable explanation? Extremely common, 61%. Can you see or feel energy or auras around people? 74%, 3 out of 4 people, yes. At one point, I saw energy auras around people, okay, or seeing the energy of people. And for the UFO contact experiences, most of the time is after they've had direct physical contact with the being, okay? After you've had direct physical contact with the being, then that triggers all these paranormal experiences, okay? Again, you go to a UFO conference, they wouldn't know any of these things because these people, they're focused on, Roswell for the 4,000th time, or Rendlesham Forest for the 1,000th time, or the Nimitz for the 200th time, or like, oh, here's a new TikTok video. Let's analyze this TikTok video. That's what these people are interested in, okay? What has that approach given you over the last 80 years? You tell me. What has that materialist, nuts and bolts ufology approach given you over the last 80 years? Okay. My opinion and the opinion of all of the members of our organization is very little. Okay. Very little. What better understanding you have of the UFO contact phenomenon given that approach versus what we're presenting here, which took 5 years to do from PhD academics that supervised and developed the surveys. Okay. 4,000, more than 4,000 experiencers from over 125 countries. So this is not just some BS type of research study here. Okay, this is the real deal. Okay, so in summary, 76% have seen a ghost or a spirit, 67% have had past my life memory, 49% have had their body out in space, like leaving planet Earth, 47% have met and conversed with a deceased person. Okay, not only met, but they converse with that ghost. 47%, huge numbers. 45% have memories of visiting what is commonly called the spirit world. 29% have channeled a non-human intelligence. 60% have repeatedly experienced objects moving in their home without any logical explanation. 47% have seen what can be considered shadow people in their homes, beings that look like cloudy, human, thin human-like that streak across the home. I've seen it. Okay. As a matter of fact, I was on a Skype call several years ago with 2 volunteers for the Free Foundation, and all of a sudden they freaked out, and I saw it on my TV camera. This shadow person streaked right behind me and went right through the glass windows, okay? And they were screaming like, ah, what the hell was that, Ray? I said, don't worry, it's just a shadow person, you know? So 40% have physically seen an orb, and 66% of these were seen in their home. 46% saw the orb go through an object, such as a wall, and 82% believe that the orbs are conscious living beings. Now, what information has been received by non-human intelligence? Okay. Again, another leading question. Oh, Ray, your study was so biased because you're asking tons of leading questions. Okay. It's so BS. You know, you're like guiding the people to answer a question. Well, take a look at this other question. Okay. Did you receive any form of communication from an ET? Is that leading? Well, 80% said yes, I've received some type of communication from an ET. Now, let's analyze this communication. Okay. We had defined ET, when we use the word ET, we had defined it as non-human intelligence. Okay. So we had always had the equivalence of ET and non-human intelligence. So the responses was either yes or no. Okay. So was the communication in your native language? Well, guess what? In all of the different language surveys, for example, in the Spanish language survey, the same thing, 75% said yes. In German, 75% that are German speakers said yes, it was in German. Okay. In Slovak, yes, 75% said yes, it was in Slovak, approximately, give or take 5 percentage points. Okay. So we asked it in English, was the communication in your native language? Well, 75% said yes. That impart reassuring messages to you, like, don't worry, I'm not going to harm you. Okay. 61% said yes. Very important. You won't hear this in ufology. Okay. That it provide you with a spiritual message. Ufology will not cross that line. They will not talk about this, but we did. Okay. 54%. Okay. More than half of the people said, yes, it gave me a spiritual message. Did it give you a message of love or oneness? Again, 54%. That expressed to you concern about humanity's behavior. And usually it results that we're destroying our planet, that we need to become much more spiritual, that we need to learn how to love each other. Okay. Well, 45% said yes, it expressed concerns about humans, how they're behaving. Okay. Again, yes or no. Do you believe you possess information about advanced technology, physics, or other scientific information that you've never read or learned in your normal environment? 42% said yes. This is extremely important because so many, especially the advanced experiencers, are getting physics downloads, science downloads. Okay. Chris Bledsoe, who a lot of people might know in the UFO field. Okay. Chris Bledsoe, major experiencer. Okay. He's been getting tons of physics downloads. Okay. There was a period where I was getting a tons of physics downloads. Okay. So this is not just only Chris Bledsoe, myself. There's 42% of these people that are contact experiencers. Okay. That it give you information that they want you to share with others. Like, look, we want to tell you something, but you need to repeat it and share with others. 41%. Did it give you an environmental message regarding planet Earth? 39%. Did it tell you about a future natural catastrophe or a depopulation of humanity? 32%. Did it give you any message of God or of a creator? Again, ufology doesn't talk about this. Well, almost 1 out of every 3 individuals that took our survey said yes. They told me, ET told me about God. Okay. Parallel universes. Did I tell you about parallel universes? Okay. Many universes. 31%. Okay. Let me just skip some of these other questions. Oh, did it quit? About the death process, about life after death, about the spirit world. Did ET tell you about heaven? Well, 1 out of every 3 people said yes. ET told me about heaven. Okay. So let me skip some of these questions. Okay. All right. Now, the abductions. Okay. If you talk to any of these nuts and bolts ufologists, if you talk to David Jacobs, if you talk to Bud Hopkins, okay, not Willie Strieber, because Willie Strieber has a totally diverse perspective on it than when he first started in the 1980s. Okay. If you talk to Richard Dolan, okay, all of these people that you go to a major UFO conference and you hear them lecture, okay, they will think that all type of ET contact is associated with an abduction. Okay. All ET contact is associated with an abduction. Well, that's false. Okay. Let me show you why. And I'll show you via hardcore data. Okay? We asked this question. Okay? Again, oh, Ray, you're asking all these leading questions. Okay? Well, take a look at this question. You tell me if it's leading or not. Have you ever had ET contact, but have no conscious recollection of ever being abducted, which is defined as taken against your will to another location? So, in other words, have you ever had ET contact, but you've never had an abduction? 68% said yes. I've had ET contact, but I've never had an abduction. So, right there, that tells you that all these bullshit researchers, they're missing 2/3 of the people. Okay? Because everything to them is an abduction. Okay? Now we ask the opposite. Okay? And the opposite, the people that actually have had an abduction, 34%. We also ask the question, okay, how would you categorize your first few and how would you categorize your last few ET contact experiences? Okay? And to the right, you'll see the first few and the last view. Okay? So, in other words, the first few experiences might be someone that saw, for example, an ET, okay? A Palladian being or a short gray or a reptilian back in 1980. Okay, they took our survey now in 2000 and let's say in 2016. Okay, so we're talking about how many years? 36 years later. Okay, so the first few experiences when they had the initial experience in 1980. And then the last few, let's say the last one was in 2016. So that's the response for your last experience. Okay. So we asked this question. Okay. We asked 5 different categories of these people. How would you put yourself? Which category? One of these boxes. Now let's start with the most negative. And that's what's circulating in mainstream ufology. This last question is basically David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins. Okay. It was a case of abduction of the most negative kind. This is the most negative stuff that ever happened to me. Now, mind you, these are the people that have had abductions, not the people that have never had an abduction. These are people that have had an abduction, okay, which is 1/3 of the people, okay? So out of those 1/3 of the people that have had an abduction, the ones that viewed their experiences, okay, in the very beginning, 18% said yes, it was an abduction of the most negative, horrible kind. But now that they reflect on it, okay, the last few experiences, only 8% said it was the most negative kind. Okay. It was a case of abduction, but a milder kind, a slightly more caring kind. Okay. It was still an abduction, but it was more milder than one of these horrid experiences. It was a little bit more caring. Okay. Well, again, in the beginning was 18.5%. And that changed to 13%. Okay, in their last few contact experiences. So you're seeing a shift over time of how these people are viewing the abduction phenomenon. Okay, now in the middle it was still a case of abduction, but they sought my permission. Okay, they were more humane and compassionate. Okay, so they asked me, can we take you? That was 8.5%, 8.7% for both, for the first few and the last few. Now, let's get into the positivity aspects of it, okay? You are not an abductee, but you are a contactee, where you are being treated with respect and understanding, okay? No, I wasn't abducted, okay? I allowed them to go, okay? And I was also treated with respect and understanding. Well, initially it was 34.9%. And towards the end, it was 35%. Not much of a change. Okay. Now, let's look at the people that said it was a case of being a conscious contactee, an egalitarian, an equal relationship. That's like the highest level of being a contactee. Okay. Well, the first few experiences was only 19%, 20%. Okay. But towards the end, their last few experiences jumped all the way from 20% to 35%. So it was a huge change in how they viewed their abduction experiences. Okay. So overall, what this showed to us was for the abductees, the more experiences you had, the more positive it became. Now, let me show you a bar chart that shows that. Oh, before we get to there, we asked approximately how many times have you seen or interacted with these non-human intelligence? And what this pie chart shows was that the vast majority of people, over 40%, have had a contact more than 20 times. Okay. Now, the ones that only once was only 14%, and 2 to 4 times was 22%. Now, the most negative people, the people that viewed it as the most negative experience, those are the people that have had it once or twice. Okay. Those people that you're looking at there, 20 or 11 to 20 or 8 to 10, those people, these are contactees. Okay. They initially might have been frightened by these experiences, but after so many repeated experiences, they underwent the total transformation. Okay. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But basically, the most negative ones were the ones that only had 1 or 2 contact experiences. Now, this is the bar graph that I was talking about, okay? This indicates that the more experiences you had, the more positive was your outlook of the experience, okay? If you only had it once, only happened 1 contact experience, okay? 50% viewed it as positive, okay? But if you've had more than 20 times ET contact, we're talking about 75% as positive, okay? Now, remember, the responses were positive, negative, or neutral, okay? Some of these people, the overwhelming number of these people that are more than 20 times of that extra 25%, those are the categories of neutral. Okay, almost no one viewed it as negative for more than 20 times. Okay, so the more contact you had, the more positive. Okay, now the summary of the abduction phenomenon. What we determined was that 68%, 2/3 of the people have never had an abduction. Only 1/3, 32%, have had an abduction. Thus, the UFO-related contact phenomenon is not just about abductions. So that's why all these ufologists, these materialists, nuts and bolts, these people like David Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, and so many others, Richard Dolan, etc., those people are totally clueless because they just assume that everything is all abduction related. Okay. Now, out of those that were abducted, out of the 1/3 that actually had an abduction, 71% now call themselves contactees and not abductees. Okay. If someone introduced you, oh, this is an abductee. No, don't call me an abductee. Okay. I'm a contactee. Even though they started off perceiving their experiences as an abductee, as having an abduction. Okay. Now, 9% stated that it was an abduction, but where non-human intelligence sought their permission and there was more humane, compassionate treatment. Only 8% of the abductees, the people that had an abduction, viewed their experience as the most negative kind. Okay. That's not what's circulating in ufology. Now, remember I mentioned to each of you, all of you, that 50% of the people were brought to a matrix reality, to another multi-dimensional reality, like Jodie Foster's movie in the movie Contact, okay? Now, that leads to the hypothesis that we're dealing with something involving a manipulation of space-time, okay? In that movie, Jodie Foster, she was brought to another reality, and they said that she was only gone for a few seconds, okay? But yet, in that reality that she was transported to, lasted, quite a bit of time. And so it's a manipulation of time, okay? And then space in that movie Contact, okay? She was not on Earth, her consciousness. Her physical body might have been in that machine that she was in, but her consciousness was brought to another multidimensional reality. So I encourage everyone to watch that movie Contact with Jodie Foster, and that'll give you a much, much better idea of what I'm about to talk, okay? Which is the 50% of the people. Half of the people were brought to a matrix reality, myself included. Now, 749 UFO contact experiences have had contact with non-human intelligence in an out-of-body type of reality, a reality with no boundaries, in a multi-dimensional dimension, and a matrix reality. And I said before, this happened to me while I was driving my car. Now, out of those people, we asked various questions, okay? We asked questions, were you physically present in your body, okay? Was your consciousness separated from your body? Did your thoughts speed up? Were your senses more vivid than usual? Did you feel separated from your body? Okay. And as you can see, all the responses to yes, okay, very large numbers. As a matter of fact, where your thoughts sped up, it was 57%. Now, most of those people said it was faster than usual, and 27% said yes, it was incredibly fast. My thoughts. The conscious separation, like Jodie Foster, 67%. Some people still viewed themselves inside their body, okay? But they viewed their consciousness as separate from their body. Did you have a feeling of peace, of pleasantness? 73%. Did you see or feel surrounded by brilliant light? 52%. Did you encounter a mystical presence, a being, or hear a voice? 79%. Did you see deceased or religious spirits? 37%. Did scenes from the past come flashing back to you? 26%. Did you seem to encounter some other unworldly, unearthly world? 70%. Did time seem to speed up or slow down? 76%. Did you feel a sense of harmony or unity with the universe? 69%. Did you suddenly seem to understand everything? 59%. That was what happened to Edgar Mitchell out in space. He had a samadhi experience where all of a sudden he had a download of like universal knowledge, and just as quickly it was taken away. And when he came back from the moon, he was like, what the hell happened to me? He began to do research on that. And he found out that it was called a samadhi experience. And then from that led him to start the Institute for Noetic Sciences, which is actually probably the world's leading academic research institute on consciousness and the psi phenomenon. Okay. Did scenes from the future come to you? 41%. Did scenes from the past come to you? 30%. And again, let's talk about near-death experiences. 1/4 of the people that have had near-death experiences were shown their past lives, all the good things they had done in their life and all the bad things. Okay. Well, look at these UFO contact experiences. 31% said they saw scenes from their past. So somehow it seems like these two phenomenon are interrelated. Okay. The scenes from the future. In the 41% were shown scenes of the future. That's usually in the UFO contact arena was the individuals shown planet Earth being torched up, being totally destroyed. Why? Because humanity is not taking care of it. Okay. A lot of people were shown their futures. Look, you're going to have a child. You're going to have a girl. You're going to have 2 kids. Tons of people were shown things from their future. Did reality of this multidimensional experience seem real to you? Well, 83% yes, it was real, just as, here on planet Earth. It was very, very real. Okay. Did you perceive that time did not exist? 71%. Again, remember I told you about the manipulation of space-time. Okay. And just like near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, the communication that took place, it's all telepathic. Okay. You never had an ET flapping his gums, or a human-looking being, a Palladian being, or a reptilian being that's communicating with you, flapping his lips. No, it's all telepathic, just like near-death experiences, just like out-of-body experiences. There are numerous commonalities between all of them. Now let's focus on spirituality. Again, Richard Dolan called our research study woo-woo science, okay? Now this man is not even a freaking scientist, okay? Yet we had tons of real scientists, okay? We have 3 PhD physicists in our organization, okay? And yet this man is not a scientist at all, but yet he had the audacity of calling our research study woo-woo science. Why? Because he doesn't understand the concept of the multiverse, okay? Rudy Shields told me one time, he said, Ray, if you graduate today with a PhD in theoretical physics, you will come out an adherent to a multiverse theory. That means that you will finish your PhD knowing that we don't live in one reality, okay? We live in a multidimensional reality, okay? So again, when these people that are nuts and bolts ufologists, they listen to this, they're like, no, it's impossible, it can't be. Well, tell that to Stephen Hawking. Tell that to Michio Kaku, okay? Tell that to all these well-known PhD scientists out there, okay? So let's focus now on the relationship between this ET, the non-human intelligence, the experiencers, and spirituality and the spirit world. Now, again, what I'm going to tell you now is what these people believe, not what they were told. This is what they believe, okay? After many, many years of having these experiences, okay? And again, these are thousands of people. This is not one or two or three or four or five, six people. These are thousands of people. Okay. 97% believe that non-human intelligence, i.e., ET, can travel to other dimensions. 97%. Okay. Yeah, these ETs, they're traveling to other dimensions, and not just to Venus or Mars. Okay. And they're not from Venus or Mars, as a matter of fact. Okay. They're multidimensional beings. 91% believe that there is some sort of a grand plan in motion and that experiencers are all part of it. 89% believe that there is a connection between non-human intelligence and the paranormal. Look at that. These experiences, 89%, yes, these ETs are related to the paranormal. That's your woo-woo science there, Richard Dolan. 82.5% believe that there is a connection between non-human intelligence and the spirit world. Again, David Jacobs. 82.5% believe that there is a connection between ETs and the spirit world. You don't know about it because you're totally clueless, because you're focusing on regressing only 200 people, feeding them leading questions. You're pre-selecting them because you're only getting the people with the negative experiences. You're not getting anyone with any positive experiences. And then you're feeding them one leading question after another. And then your conclusion, just like Richard Dolan, is that ETs are creating hybrids to take over the world. Okay. Now, does that worldview compare to what I just presented in this research study? No, it's the total opposite. 82% believe that non-human intelligence, ETs, can travel to the past and also travel to the future. 75.4% believe that there is a connection between ETs and reincarnation. Look at that. 75%, 3 out of 4 people. 45% have reached an agreement with ET. Look at that. 45% yes. Okay. They might have abducted me, but I agreed to it. Okay. 45%. 38% believe that non-human intelligent beings are modern angels. That's how I perceive them. Okay. Not from a biblical term, but they have all the powers of what people consider modern angels. Okay. That's these ETs, these non-human intelligent beings. 30% agreed to be taken aboard a UFO craft. 30%, 3 out of 10. 31% were given a message about God. Look at that. 3 out of 10, they were given a message of God. So this is what the ETs told them. This is not what they believe anymore. This is what ET told them. 31% said, yeah, ET talked to me and he told me about God. 30% were told by the ETs about the death process and the spirit world. Okay. 28% were told where they were from, where the ETs were from. 26% were given a message about reincarnation from the ETs. 25% told them of what their mission here is on Earth. Why are they here? 25% were shown how to do energy work. If you ever go to an NDE conference, you'll see tons of these people, the NDE people, experiencers that are into Reiki healing. You go to a UFO conference, tons of these UFO contact experiences are into Reiki healing. Okay, I don't need to tell you. Just go to one of these conferences. Don't go and listen to these lecturers because they're totally clueless. Go talk to the experiencers. Okay, 25% were told that at one time they were an ET. 24% were told by ET about the experiencers' past lives. Okay, Jacques Vallée. Too bad I don't have his quote. It's not working my audio here. But Jacques Vallée, I consider the world's preeminent scholar on the UFO contact phenomenon. And he basically will not go near a UFO conference with a 10-foot pole. Okay, and his perspective is the total opposite of all these materialist ufologists. The total opposite. So he wrote a book titled UFOs, The Psychic Solution, UFO Influences on the Human Race, and like 20 other books. Now let me go into the, also, he wrote as a foreword to this book, The Simulation Hypotheses. Jacques Vallée wrote the following, okay? The simulation hypothesis presents a radical alternative to current models of reality. Many fields rejected or neglected by modern science, such as religion, religious visions, NDEs, psychic phenomenon, and even UFOs, can be brought under this framework. The result is a stunning reappraisal of what it means to be human in an infinite universe. So this is Jacques Vallée writing the foreword to this man's book. Okay, Jacques Vallée, together with all of the academic researchers of our organization. Okay, we all believe that consciousness is primary, not our material reality, and just like Jacques Vallée, that we could be within a simulated reality. Okay, so that's Dr. Jacques Vallée, the most important and most credible UFO researcher in the world by far. Dr. John Mack, he was up there right at the level of Dr. Jean Vallée. Okay, Dr. John Mack, for those who do not know who he was a tenured academic professor at the Harvard Medical School. He was a professor of psychiatry, and he really was one of the first high-level academics to become interested in the UFO contact phenomenon, in the experiencers. Okay, and in 1999, he published a book titled "Passport to the Cosmos: Human Transformation and Alien Encounters." Okay, and this is what Dr. John Mack wrote. Okay, he said, people know their experiences, and what they have undergone does not fit with the prevailing mechanistic worldview, i.e., nuts and bolts materialist ufology. They know it doesn't fit under that umbrella. He said, large percentages of people seem to know there is an unseen world or hidden dimensions of reality. Okay, this is coming straight from the two leading researchers in this field, Dr. John Mack and Dr. Jacques Vallée. Jeffrey Long, he's one of the leading academic research scholars on the near-death experiences. He is the co-chair of the CCRI organization, the organization that I started off with. Okay, the one that's researching the experiencers of the contact modalities. And again, I had an audio clip of him. I apologize, it's not working. So he is one of the co-chairs together with Dr. Rudy Shields and myself. And he's a medical doctor. He's an oncologist, a cancer specialist. And he, one of the few individuals that has thousands of survey data from NDE experiencers and also OBE experiencers. Okay, and when I talked to him and gave him all of our data, he said, Ray, this is just like NDEs, almost exactly like it. Can I join your organization? And so he became one of the co-chairs. Now, our book, Beyond UFOs, The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence, that was published in 2018. It's 820 pages, and it can be purchased on Amazon, which is available in book form or in Kindle. But as I said before you even buy it, okay, send me an email, and I will send you numerous chapters from that book, okay? And it will have our two main chapters where we present most of our data findings. Certainly what I presented in today's lecture, except you'll be getting in a much more comprehensive format. You'll be also getting a couple of articles that were academic publications that myself and several PhD academics published in peer-reviewed academics. Some of them were actually publications like where Jacques Vallée published many of his academic articles in the Journal for a Society of Scientific Exploration. I'll send that to you as well. Okay, now let's take a look at some of those similarities between the UFO contact experience and near-death experiences. Okay, again, our argument that it's one phenomenon and it's all derived from one source. Okay, telepathic communications in one's native language. As I said before, these are not beings slapping their gums around and talking to you, all telepathic, just like in near-death experiences, just like in out-of-body experiences, okay? Just like in shamanic journeys, the people that take ayahuasca or DMT or magic mushrooms, when they're having communication with a perceived non-human intelligence, it's all what? Telepathic communications. Okay. The out-of-body experience is common to both NDEs and UFOs. As I showed before with the UFOs, it's 80% of these people. Okay. And the NDE, almost by definition, involves an out-of-body experience. Okay. As a matter of fact, the numbers, the percentages of people that when they have an NDE before, that they're out of their body and they're looking at their dead body underneath, or their unconscious body underneath, is again huge percentages. Okay, okay. Energy being, human-looking being, and ghost beings. These are 3 out of the 4 top beings that people have seen in UFO contact. The 4th one is the short gray. Well, guess what? The energy being, the human-looking being, and the ghost beings are the 3 major types of beings seen in a near-death experience. Coincidence, my friends? Coincidence? No, I don't think so. Medical healings. Okay. You saw that in the UFO study, 50% of these people had a medical healing. Well, guess what? With near-death experiences, there are tons of people that had NDEs that had medical healings. The most famous people are 2 of the most well-known NDE experiencers in the world. Anita Morjani, she had stage 4 cancer. Okay. She had an NDE. She woke up totally healed from her cancer. She was told when she had her communications with God, the being that she identified as God, it told her, look, when you go back to the doctors, tell them no more chemotherapy, because you've been totally healed. So when she woke up out of her coma after several days, she told this to the doctors, and the doctor said, we're not going to give you any more treatments anyway, because, they're not going to do anything. Your whole body is littered with cancer. Okay. Well, within 2 weeks, she walked out of that hospital. Okay. Same thing with Dr. Eben Alexander. Okay. Another Harvard professor at the Harvard Medical School, just like Dr. John Mack, except Eben Alexander was a neurosurgeon, a professor of surgery of the brain. Okay. He had a very famous near-death experiences where he had a bacterial infection of his brain. His brain was turned to mashed potato. Okay. And so no one could understand how this man could walk away from his near-death experience and within a couple of weeks have all of his cognitive functions and memories back. It took him like 2 weeks to get all of his full memories back. But this is a brain that was mush. It was mashed potatoes. How could that take place? Because of a medical healing, because of the near-death experience. So again, coincidence, my friend? I don't think so. Reincarnation. Both groups have dealt with in their experiences with reincarnation. You saw that over 25% of the people were told by ET about reincarnation. And close to, what was it, like over 90% of the people believed in reincarnation, okay, in the UFO contact survey. So another similarity. Visions of the future and visions of the past. For visions of the future, much more common in the UFO contact experiences, and they're usually shown an ecological vision of planet Earth, that we're totally destroying our planet, okay? Or that we need to become much more spiritual, okay? Now, visions of the past, again, much more prevalent in the near-death experience, where people are being shown all the good things that they had done in their life and all the bad things. That's called a life review. 1 out of every 4 people in an NDE has a life review, okay? So again, these manipulations of space-time in terms of the future, in terms of the past, okay? These 2 types of intelligence, both the near-death experience and the ETs, are able to manipulate visions of the future and visions of the past. Total personality transformation. Like I told you before, I went through part of my lecture, how these people totally changed towards the positive. Okay. Same thing with NDE experiencers. Totally changed toward the positive. And that was in Dr. Kenneth Ring's book that I told you about. I talked about being taken to a matrix reality. 50% of the people that took our surveys were brought to a matrix reality. Okay. And by definition, having an NDE is being brought to a matrix reality. Okay. Precognition. Okay. When people return from an NDE and also have ET contact, okay, all of a sudden these people have these huge precognition abilities. My wife detected a tumor in my back. She knew that our engine was going to blow up if we went to this, our first ever UFO conference, 3 hours away, the driving distance. She just knew his car was going to blow up. She was harassing me, hounding me. I brought it to my mechanic. The mechanic said, Ray, thank goodness you didn't take it on that long trip, because the whole motor would have blown up. Okay, so she detected a huge tumor on my back. I had no idea. No one knew. I went to the doctor. The doctor had some X-rays or some other tests and X-rays, and then wound up putting a huge scar on my back. The surgeon to take this huge tumor out of my back. My wife knew about it and told me. So again, precognition, things of the future that are going to happen. My wife was like a dime a dozen, telling me all these things. Same thing with NDE contact experiencers. Okay, paranormal experiences. I already went through all the paranormal experiences with UFO contact. Same thing happens with NDE experiencers. Okay, once they have their NDE experience, all of a sudden, all these people are seeing ghosts and spirits. Okay, they're having out of body experiences. Okay, tons of paranormal experiences. People later see ghosts and spirits. Very common to both groups. Manipulation of electronic devices. Okay, I saw a lecture of Dr. Bruce Grayson, one of the leading academic researchers, a tenured professor at the University of Virginia, a professor of psychiatry. He's now retired. He gave a lecture of how NDE experiencers were having difficulty with electronic devices. Okay, electronic watches with
Hey, Ray,
computers,
just real quick, your
lamps, and
camera
things.
shifted a bit. If you could move it a bit to your right, please.
Is that good?
No,
Is that
no,
good?
keep going. It shifted quite a bit.
Okay.
The
How's
other
that?
way.
Oh, the
Yeah,
other way.
keep going, please.
Okay.
No,
Sorry
that's
about
okay.
that.
Keep going.
Okay. Yes.
It went quite a bit. I don't know how it happened. Keep going. It's not there yet.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. And so here we have same
No, I
thing
meant
with UFO
I'm
contact.
so I apologize. You slide. Keep going. You're way off. I don't know how it happened. Just
Okay. What number am I in the slide? What does it show for you? For me, it shows NDE and UFO contact.
yes. No, you good there.
Okay, good, good. Okay. So the whole issue of manipulation of electronic devices, very well known within the UFO field. Okay. Spiritual messages, as I said in my presentation, very, very common. Huge numbers of percentages of spiritual messages. NDEs, again, that by definition, these people are getting these spiritual messages of the afterlife. Um, Consciousness is non-local. That's one of the major conclusions, that our reality is not 3D. Okay, that consciousness, that our spirit.
Your connection dropped and our stream stopped.
Adnan, you
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
know.
Okay. All right. Let me see here. Let me just make a quick announcement. Okay, sorry about that. We had a little disconnection in the actual stream, so you should be seeing me now, and we'll just continue where Ray had left off. So Ray, go ahead, continue where you had left off.
Okay, this new organization that I mentioned, the Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, which is much, much larger than the previous organization, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell FREE Foundation. This new organization, we're going to be publishing a new book. It's actually 4 volumes. And the title of the book is A Greater Reality, the New Paradigm of Consciousness, the Paranormal, and the Contact Modalities. The 4 volumes, we don't know exactly, but we envision having approximately 800 pages for each book. We will have not 90 authors, but more than 100 authors. And approximately 25 of these will be PhD academic professors. Volumes 1 and 2 will be theoretical books that will present diverse personal hypotheses of the nature of our multidimensional reality, of consciousness, of the different contact modalities. So this will be theoretical books talking about how UFOs are related to consciousness and our multiverse, how NDEs are related to consciousness and the multiverse, ghosts and spirits, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And so, in other words, this book, and the first 2 books, will be exploring the relationship between consciousness, our cosmology, and contact with non-human intelligence via the contact modalities. And volumes 3 and 4 will be volumes that will be written by experiencers of the contact modalities. And these are going to be individuals that have had more than 3 different types of experiences with the contact modalities. For example, the first author will be this medical doctor, Dr. Melinda Greer, and she's had 12 UFO sightings, all of them very up close. She's had 2 near-death experiences, numerous out-of-body experiences. She's astral traveled since she was a young kid. She's had 3 Sasquatch experiences, but yet at the same time, she works at a hospital for children, saving the lives of hundreds of children a year. Okay, highly intelligent woman, very professional, and so again, someone that has had not one type of experience, but numerous diverse types of experiences via the contact modalities. So that's volumes 3 and volume 4. Okay, so this is what the cover of our book looks like. If you can see on the right, A Greater Reality. We're going to have 4 co-editors. I need to replace this because this is the cover, the first draft that we did. And over a year ago, we added a 4th professor. The co-editors are myself, Dr. Rudy Shields, the professor of astrophysics from Harvard, Dr. John Climo, the professor of psychology for over 45 years, and Dr. John Climo, who is a retired professor of philosophy, also a major experiencer, and he's written over 10 books on the paranormal. That's and he's a PhD from Columbia University. That's Dr. Michael Grosso. So again, you can see, the highest level type of academics that are the co-editors for this book. And in this book, we're talking about you name it on this front cover: near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, UFOs, ghosts and spirits, angels, non-human intelligence, psychedelic journeys, remote viewing, praying, channeling, lucid dreams, telepathy, poltergeist, orbs, precognition, clairvoyance, on and on and on and on. So again, the name of the organization is Consciousness and Contact Research Institute, or CCRI. If you send me an email, please write it down, because I'll be sending you free information, free chapters. info@experiencer.org. That's info at experiencer.org. We do have 2 websites, but they're being developed. And by September 1st, when the new book is published, that's when we'll be opening up our 2 new websites. So that is my my slideshow.
Okay. All right. Well, Ray, just sit tight. You don't touch anything, please. Otherwise, we might have more difficulties. But
Okay.
you coming in
Okay.
great now. Okay. Let's see if I have this going. All right. Great. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Or at least thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for being patient with me. That's what I meant to say. I'm kind of flustered because I got all these slides and connection dropping on us, but we're back and everything's running great. So, Ray, thanks very much again for your presentation. I appreciate it. So, as always, if you guys would like to ask a question of Ray, make sure that you have the 3 stars before your question, so that way I know it's for the guest and it'll pop out easier for me in the chat. So, just I guess start putting them out there. I have already a few that have come in, so we'll just get going. Ray, I have some questions for you if you're okay then. All right.
Yes, I'm okay. Are people able to see me?
Yeah, everything's fine. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
the first one is from Fabrizio. He's asking concerning visitation during night terror experiences. Can they be seen as valid reality or just neurological byproduct of the dream state?
Okay, so these are experiences while you're dreaming.
He's
If that's my understanding.
he said concerning visitations during night terrors experiences. So he's asking if they are a byproduct or neurological byproduct of the dream state, or are they valid, or is it a valid reality?
Okay, dreams. You know, people have been researching dreams and what they see and experience via dreams, at least that I'm aware of, since the 1960s. Stanley Krippner, I think, was one of the academics that actually did experiments and tests on what is called lucid dreams. Okay, now some of these lucid dreams can be very frightful, and some of them, people being brought to heaven and having trances shown heaven. So um, uh, lucid dreams, unfortunately, is not something that you could really study scientifically um, extensively, like asking data sets. And I really don't know about whether lucid dreams are real or not real. I don't know because I'm not a dream expert. But I know that there isn't a lot of research on lucid dreams. There have been various books written about it, but it's difficult to conduct experimental research on lucid dreaming.
Okay. Uh, there we go. Let me change that around. So the second question is from the 5D Raver. Says, so what does Ray think their intentions are with humans?
Well, if you paid attention to my presentation, it's certainly not to take over the world, okay, like David Jacobs says. And I think what's happening is that they're awakening humanity, okay? They're awakening humanity to our multidimensional nature. They're telling us to become more spiritual, much more loving, much more caring. Um, and so it's an awakening process that's taking place. And for example, let me pose this question to your to the person that asked that question. Okay, the whole topic of ET contact, people being going to other planets, having contact with non-human intelligence in other planets and things like that. When did that really take off? Worldwide, on a worldwide basis. This was with Star Trek, I would argue. This was in the early 70s, 1970. Okay. So this is way before the internet. Okay. The near death experiences, when did that really become popular at an international level? Okay. Well, that was with Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life. What year was that? 1975. That resulted in an explosion of research and people interested in other medical doctors in near death experiences. That was 1975. Okay? Out of body experiences, when did it become popular? Well, I would argue with Robert Monroe. Okay, he published two highly influential books on his research on out of body experiences. One was that early 70s. So within a 5 year period, you had 3 out of the 4 major contact modalities. You had um, contact with ET beings, from other planets, from other realities of the universes. Okay, that was Star Trek. You had near-death experiences. That was with Raymond Moody. Out-of-body experiences. That was with Robert Monroe. Now, the question I want to pose to all the listeners out there. This is before the internet now. So my question is, okay, was that interrelated? Okay, or is this a mere coincidence that all these experiences got international awareness before the internet within 5 years of each other? Was it just a mere coincidence? I would say no. It was pre-planned. It was programmed.
Okay, so he answered right before you gave that the long
Yeah.
answer, so he might get back to it later. He was just saying, just real quick, said, "I paid attention. Is it just spirituality?"
Oh no, yes, I didn't mean it in a condescending way. I apologize for that. What I meant was that um, what's taking place, okay, and that's not my opinion, but the experience of many of the advanced researchers is that what's taking place is that humanity is being awakened to the spiritual nature, the multidimensional nature of who we are, the essence of who we are as humans, and that's what's taking place, and that's why throughout near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, and the UFO contact stuff, that it all happened within 5 years of each other, and it wasn't a coincidence. It was being planned out by non-human intelligence, by the universal mind.
Okay, so Mr. Catfish 2100 says, "What is the purpose of the tall grays and their agenda for our genetics, please?"
What race?
The tall grays.
Oh, the tall grays? Well, in terms of the genetic aspects, you have to think of what people associate as an abduction. Okay, what's taking place is that they're doing medical experiments on us. Okay, most of the people that are abductees, they know this. Okay, that's why they call themselves contactees. Okay, they're monitoring us as humans, for example. Okay, you have to think as these beings as an intelligence, not from Mars or Venus or something like that, but super highly evolved, multi-dimensional type of beings. Okay, and they are monitoring us. For example, radiation. Okay, pollution. Okay, the sperm count for humans. Okay, I think a recent article came out by a faculty member at Mount Sinai saying that humans might become extinct because of the ever decreasing low sperm count of the male species. Okay, so there's numerous things that can lead humanity to depopulate itself. Okay, and so what they're doing is they're monitoring us, just like you monitor, cows and sheep or any type of other animal to see their viability and their health. So that's what's taking place when they're doing these medical checkups on us.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'm just asking the chat for some clarifications, just to get back real quick, and then again, just to finish this off between you and 5D Raver says, thanks, Ray. I shared the same views with you. I just wanted to double check. So that was that.
Okay.
And then I asked Hazel had another question. I asked her to clarify, but I'm going to ask it the way it is, so we're not waiting. She said, "Who are the 22 that share our DNA? Who made us?"
Well, we asked that question. Did the ET say that they're related to you or associated with you, that they created us, that sort of thing? And we really did not get large numbers saying that they created us, that they made us. Okay, unlike the stuff that's circulating on the internet. So there appears to be a very strong relationship between us and non-human intelligence. We still don't understand the complexities of that relationship, because folks have to understand that there are no answers to this. This is the world's biggest jigsaw puzzle. Okay, we don't even know what questions to ask, to tell you quite frankly. So all these people that act like they know it all, no, no one really knows what the hell is going on. But based upon our research data, we have a better understanding of what is going on, but still no answers.
Okay. Erica Louise is asking, why do they contact some of us who were never interested in the UFO subject prior to the experience, and yet it feels so personal? So why these specific individuals?
Well, you raised a very good point. One is that there are many individuals that had experiences since they were young, paranormal experiences. And people like myself, I never had an experience. I never had an interest in any of these topics until 2012. And I'm 64 years old. Okay. So we really don't have an answer for that. We really need to do more statistical research study of what we're doing to try to be able to get better answers. Now, in terms of these experiences, while they might seem very similar, they're actually very distinct to the experiencer. They're unique experiences. Okay, even in terms of the type of beings that are seen. People talk about short grays, but literally we documented hundreds of different types of colors for the short grays and for these different types of beings. Okay, so and also we categorize hundreds of different types of beings. Okay, now one could take the position of these materialist ufologists and say, okay, all these hundreds of different type of beings came with hundreds of different types of planets. Okay, but you could also take an alternative perspective, which is not only my perspective but the perspective of many individuals in our group, is that these are virtual reality holographic projections. You're not actually seeing this particular being. Okay, you're seeing a holographic projection of that being. Okay, and I have a lot of arguments for that, but this is not the place to do that because it's quite extensive. Actually, we will have an article by Dr. Joseph Burks, who is a retired medical doctor. He's a major experiencer, and he wrote about the virtual reality hypothesis of UFO contact. So yes, these experiences are very unique, okay, to the individual.
Okay. Ray, just real quick before I move on to the next question, there's Skype is being very janky. Is there? Let's try if you can stop sharing your screen, and I want to see if your original video goes back to its original size.
Okay, let me.
The okay, there you go.
Right
All
here,
right.
right?
Okay, we'll see
And
if it.
then,
Yeah, you coming in now.
oh, it says start sharing.
No,
So
good.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
want
no,
to
you
start sharing.
don't. You stopped. Now I just
Okay,
see your camera. So this way, if there's,
okay,
because my screen kept going up and down, and I don't want to keep messing with the audience. They've been very patient, and
okay.
I've just been resizing and making all these changes. But anyway, so the other question is from Learning to Love 111 says, have you heard of the book Alien Identities by Richard L. Thompson? It talks about alien races from ancient scriptures, Vedic tradition, and consciousness.
Yes, I'm familiar with Richard Thompson. I think he's has written several outstanding books, and he's now deceased. Um, and again, he's not just talking about he didn't make this thing up. This came straight from ancient Vedic texts. So yes, I am familiar with it.
Okay. The other question is from Joe Urban. It says, have the aliens ever communicated to abductees anything about our origins, or if they discovered how the universe came to be? I have heard of abductees being allowed a question or two to them.
Well, again, we could have asked thousands of questions to these people, okay? And even then, people complained that it was too long to do these 3 surveys, okay? We did get people that told us that information, responses, but it wasn't a direct, open-ended question that we asked. In our book on chapter 2, we do have some of those comments, and they're quite diverse. What people don't understand is that whatever this intelligence is that we're interacting with, they're very coy. They will not tell you directly, we're from Palladians, we're from that, a particular star system. While you hear that in the ufology circles, um, um, typically most individuals that get information as to where human beings are from, or where they are from, or whether God is from, that those type of questions, they sort of beat around the bush. They don't tell you directly, um, and that's the vast majority of the responses that we got.
Okay. I'm just mainly because sometimes with the quick chat and the way people write things out, spelling is not all there. So I'm trying to understand the greater picture before I ask you the question. So I apologize if some of these
Okay.
are sounding too confusing. But this is from Fabrizio again saying, if regressive hypnosis is approached with non-leading questions and only with the mind frame of the experiencer, thus non-intrusive, should it be then a good way to get a better picture?
Yes, hypnotic regressions can be utilized effectively. For example, Dr. John Mack, okay, he was trained in hypnotic regressions professionally. He took videos of those regressions. You did not see one leading question of it, okay? But then when you have a man that publicly stated in hundreds of his interviews that all contact, ET contact, is negative, evil, okay? That he's never met one person that's had a positive experience, okay? And he's doing hypnotic regressions of people. And actually, I've seen some of those sessions, and it was one leading question after another. I believe it was Bud Hopkins' wife recorded some of those sessions with both Jacobs and Bud Hopkins. So these are videos, it's right in front of your face. It's not like I'm making it up, okay? And you'll see all these leading questions. So when someone has an agenda, an ulterior motive to it, okay? Hypnotic regressions is, you cannot use it, okay? So that's why for our surveys, we did not ask people to answer their questions based upon hypnotic regressions, because there could be 50% of the people that had hypnotic regression, but the person did not ask a leading question. They were professionally trained. Okay. Then you have another 50% of the people that were not professionally trained, or people that were asking one leading question after another, that people that had a hidden agenda. Okay. So that's why we didn't allow hypnotic regressions as part of our survey. We only allowed conscious explicit memory. And we did not allow lucid dreams, just like that man who sent that question about lucid dreams. If someone has a frightening nightmare and it recurs night after night, should we allow that as a vivid experience of the person? Okay, no. What is a lucid dream? What is not a lucid dream? So we just did not allow lucid dreams and channeling as well. Only conscious explicit memory.
So, Ray, how are you doing energy-wise? Do you have time for
Okay,
one
very
more
good.
question?
Yes, we can go for a couple more if you have a couple
Okay,
more.
yeah, I'm just waiting to see if as they come in. So there's another one from
Okay,
Mr. Cat.
let me just get a little water.
Okay, go ahead. But
Yeah,
anyway,
no,
the
go ahead.
question is, yeah, there it is, from Mr. Catfish 2100. It says, who are the 5 foot light chalky grays? Any ideas?
As I said before, people have seen hundreds of different types of beings. Okay, hundreds. Okay, we're talking over 800 different types of beings in our survey. In terms of the grays, you name it, people have seen. Okay, so the white chalky grays, there are people that have described that. People have described yellowish beings. People have described orange glowing like the sun, the little grays. People have described as pure white light, the short grays. Okay. Now, in terms of why they all appear in different colors, we don't know. We don't know the difference. We don't even know whether they're actual grays. Okay. Whether there's some type of holographic projections from some other type of conscious entity. Okay. We know that holographic projections exist, the members in our group. And as I said before, this is quite extensive. I guess people will need to read Dr. Joseph Burks' article in our forthcoming book, where he talks about the virtual reality hypothesis, and that they're contacting these entities, and these are holographic projections. So that's my suspicion of what's going on.
Okay, well, Ray, a lot of the other comments were simply just to say thank you. One particular was, please tell him thank you on our behalf. We appreciate his work and dedication to the UFO phenomenon. Another one thanking you and I both. So I think this would be it for today. But thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. I'm just
You're very welcome.
let me just remind the audience where what other info I have in the description box, and then we should be good. But thanks again for being on.
You're very welcome. I just want to remind folks, send me an email to info at experiencer.org, and I will send you numerous chapters from our forthcoming book, and I'll send you an extensive written detail about the new organization, what's our mission, some of the individuals involved, some of the professors involved, and these are very well-known, famous names. And in the future, we'll be sending you free chapters from the new book. So send me an email, info@experiencer.org.
Great, thank you for that, Ray. So everyone watching this video, in the description, there's a Amazon link to the book, and there's also the email address there as well if you just want to copy and paste it and shoot an email over to Ray. But so this should be it for today. Thank you all very much for logging in, for spending a Friday with us. Next week again on Wednesday, we're going to have open lines at 7 p.m. Friday, I should manage to get another guest. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, or the very beginning of this show, is that I will try to get a webcast in sometime next week, and it can drop anywhere from Monday through Friday. If there's nothing coming that week, I will have it in the community section on the UFO Hub page on the YouTube. Just check it there. I'll always update you there and say, okay, I'm going to have something or I'm not. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Ray, sit tight. we'll chat some more after the show. But everyone else, have a
Okay.
good weekend. And again, Ray, thanks a lot, and hope to talk to you soon.
You're very welcome.